штурмовики.
12 months of all-out war in Ukraine have been followed by another. In the first year, Vladimir Putin's invasion stalled, and Russia's objective to topple the Kyiv government was reduced to capturing territory in southern and eastern Ukraine. The second year opened with Ukraine emerging from a long winter siege upon its energy infrastructure, and both sides locked in battle for the devastated city of Bakhmut.
Здавати Бахмут ніхто не буде.
Nobody will give away Bakhmut. We will fight for as long as we can.
Вважаємо Бахмут
We consider Bakhmut our fortress. Those who died there, heroes.
Strategic setbacks for the Kremlin in the spring, an arrest warrant issued against Putin by the International Criminal Court, and Finland's joining of NATO were countered with the deployment of Russian nuclear weapons to Belarus. By mid-May, the exhausted defenders gave up the battle for Bakhmut, bled dry by the meat-grinder attacks of the Russian mercenary force, Wagner, whose leader, Evgeny Prigozhin, grew increasingly at odds with Russia's top brass.
У нас нехватка боеприпасов 70%! Шойгу! Герасимов! Где боеприпасы?
In June, Ukraine launched its counteroffensive, throwing newly formed brigades equipped with Western weaponry against defenses Russia had been preparing for months. Kyiv attacked on multiple fronts, with its most important being a drive to the sea in an attempt to sever Russian lines. Meanwhile, the Russian Defense Ministry's attempts to bring Prigozhin to heel instead sent his mercenaries into insurrection.
Это удар в спину.
This is a stab in the back to our nation and to our people.
After shooting down several Russian helicopters, Wagner called off its march against Moscow. The closest Putin's regime came to collapsing in 24 years of rule. Wagner was disarmed and exiled to Belarus. 2 months elapsed before Prigozhin was killed in a plane crash.
Катастрофу уже взял на личный контроль.
In September, Putin hosted North Korea's Kim Jong-un, seeking to secure a source of plentiful ammunition, a meeting that proved significant on the Ukrainian battlefield, where artillery is king. The counteroffensive makes little progress, new recruits and veterans alike floundering in Russian minefields. Without air superiority, Kyiv's forces suffered significant losses. By early November, Ukraine's Chief of Staff, Zaluzhny, acknowledged the offensive's failure, describing the war as in a stalemate. A December visit to Washington, D.C. by Volodymyr Zelensky highlighted Ukraine's plight. An increasingly skeptical Republican Party showed the president a cold welcome, at odds to his reception just a year before.
We needed clarity on what we're doing in Ukraine and how we'll have proper oversight of the spending of precious taxpayer dollars of the American citizens.
Starved of ammunition and running low on manpower, Ukraine's military operations took on a more defensive posture. Having achieved notable success in the air and sea throughout the year, Kyiv doubled down on its strategy of deep strikes, using drones and missiles to hit Russian infrastructure and ships, opening up the Black Sea to its own exports in the process. But resourcing issues remained. In February, after growing disagreements, Zelensky fired his top general, in part due to Zaluzhny's insistence that wider conscription was required to replenish Ukraine's ranks.
Сьогодні я ухвалив рішення про
Today, I decided to renew the leadership of the armed forces of Ukraine.
не про прізвище і тим більше.
It's not about surnames, and even more so, not about politics. This is about the system of our army.
України.
2 weeks later, the city of Avdiivka fell to the Russian army, whose firepower and supply of shells far outmatches Ukraine's. The year ahead will prove as critical to Ukraine as the last, with political decisions in foreign capitals likely as important for its success as any achievements on the battlefield.